Welcome back to the Butterfly Season podcast. I'm so happy to be spending this time with you guys right now because I have some pretty fun news to share. Fun for me and this whole self journey. But if you haven't heard me speak before about butterfly season, or if you have rather, this message and theme is very much heavily in butterfly season, and it is when you process the chaos in your mind, watch where else you get clarity in your life. And for bigger things, bigger transitions, or really living in a cocoon season, I feel like you see so much impact so quickly. Now, micro cocoons, if you will, I feel like I'm kind of in a micro cocoon right now. And I realized something, and I was just so proud and happy about it, which is why I'm sharing. So recently I've been journaling, and it's been helping me process my emotions, especially as it relates to identifying triggers and patterns. So this process, I would say, is a butterfly season or cocoon season 2.0, right? If you feel like if you've listened to me talk about it in the past, and understanding that a manifestation of chaos in your mind is how your world is, how your car is, your house is, your closet, your room, how that is really just a manifestation of how you're feeling inside. Truly believe that through and through. Now, if you want to take it a step further, journal, and shit will be cracked open for you. And so for me, I've recognized and I've been able to identify triggers and patterns. And so what I've noticed is that so much of the same thing is everywhere. Literally, so much of your patterns show up in every other area of your life. And that can be daunting for some. It definitely feels like a big feat for me in some areas. But I said this before, and I'll say it again. The Butterfly Season podcast is literally like my diary at this point. And so I'm just going to get honest with you, and we'll work on this together. But right now, if this is your first time listening to this episode, I am struggling with self-worth and codependency. Not to be confused with confidence. I am a very confident person, but it's the intrinsic self-worth and the codependent behaviors that I've learned from childhood. And so working on that. Recently, we had contractors do some frontscaping of our home, and I just had so much trouble communicating what I wanted with them, which is obviously throat chakra work. And if you've heard about my story, or if you've listened to the very first episode of this podcast, I am a frequent blocked throat chakra girl. And so I sent over images to the contractor, and I showed them the renderings of what was supposed to be created and all of the things, and they weren't going exactly as planned. And I had the hardest time requesting to change and go exactly as planned. Literally, I was talking to the contractor at one point, and I'm like, hey, in the renderings, this is over maybe 5 feet. Can we move this over? And the contractor, they were so kind and did an amazing job, but he was like, trust me, this will look better. And I couldn't even muster up the courage to say, I understand your expertise, but this is how I would like it done. And if we can't do it this way, then I'm going to go with someone else. Literally, I have the hardest time saying that because I feel like I'm going to hurt their feelings. I'm going to ruin the relationship. I'm not going to be able to work with him anymore. That exact theme of a situation is codependency showing itself. I'm trying to lessen the blow for him in his work. So I'm going to compromise myself and what I want the front of the house to look like. And so that was a little bit hard. Chatted with my therapist about it and had a constructive conversation with him. And the home is beautiful. Everything is how it should be. But what I realized is that yes, there's a codependency issue. Yes, there's advocating for myself. And yes, all of those things. But what I realized, what was important to me, it was so important to me, and I felt so triggered by it because external things are important to me. And so I'm working on loving things for myself and not attaching worth to it. And so it's this balancing act of advocating for myself because we paid for something and this is what we discussed in the beginning and I should have it this way, but then also not feeling like my worth is attached to the outcome of how it turns out. And so that's been a whole revelation. But the reason why I'm saying that is because this is an example of codependency showing up in a bunch of different places, self-worth showing up in a bunch of different places. It doesn't matter the scenario or the person, it still shows up. And so it's a constant sense of working through, right? And Yes. So back to why I was excited. Because that sounds like a little bit Debbie Downer, but it's true and it's me and it's honest and that's fine. But journaling, I've only been doing it for 2 months. And what I've noticed is that it's done like wonders. And I've heard people say this all the time, but it's really helped me improve my self-awareness. So I could feel a resistance around having those conversations with the contractor. Like I just didn't want to do it. I even like lied and said, well, let me ask my husband if he likes it, knowing that he wants what I want, like doesn't care exactly how it looks, just wants it to look nice. But I just couldn't tell the contractor that I didn't like it. I literally was like, let me see what my husband says, right? Like I realized what I was doing in real time and was able to correct it. And so for me, working through these past traumatic experiences, I'm gaining a better understanding of myself, my triggers, and coping mechanisms, but also like greater insight into other areas where it's showing up. And so I love that for me right now, right? Because I can like work on it. So I feel those like pings a lot more. I guess people will call them like downloads, but I feel pings a lot more strongly, especially when I act on them. They're more louder and they're obvious. And I feel like I trust myself more to make those decisions on which way to navigate whatever it is. So for me, I felt like, hey, you're having resistance around advocating for yourself right now. Lean into that and figure out how to constructively advocate for yourself. Also, I realized that I have increased emotional regulation. And so I feel like a situation like that might make me be passive or not be happy and not say anything and then just be like, hey, this wasn't what we discussed, as they're laying down cement and it's like not fixable. And it also helped me realize too, like the core of it right now for me is not feeling like I'm being seen or heard. And because I'm not feeling like I'm seen or heard, I'm not acting in a way that is healthily. Healthily? I don't know if that's a word, but if it is, we're going to use it. But it's just it's allowing me to regulate my emotions and understand where they're coming from and not just like react because I feel a way. I'm like, hey, I feel a way. Why? And then I can make an informed decision on how to react. One's proactive, the other one's retroactive. And so the reason why I'm sharing this is because I through this like work, through the journaling of it all and understanding things and correlating things and drawing connections to things and saying, okay, what are the things that I want to keep? What are the things that I want to try to work through that I can kind of like let go and are not me anymore? And I found like so much clarity in other areas. And so one is just like with respect to how I'm approaching some of the things that I want to do within like business and personal life and the structure of it all. I just felt like I was getting so caught up in that. And literally like I was driving to a dance class and it just like clicked. Like it all just clicked. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can do it like this and I can do it like this and I can do it like this and this is how it'll be. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to take action on that like now. Like when I get out of class, boom, like I'm just going to take the first step and making that change because it feels really good for me. And I'm sharing this because journaling sounds so simple, right? Like, oh, I'm just writing things down. But here's how I'm making sense of what's happening to me, why things are getting so much more clear. So I'm currently reading the Joe Dispenza book, Becoming Supernatural. And in that book, it talks a lot about the brain. So if you've been listening to this podcast up until this point, I've been talking a lot about the brain because I've been learning a lot about the brain. And journaling promotes your theta brainwaves, which are associated with like relaxation, calm, and deep reflection. And the more consistent, I guess, your brainwaves are operating or in that theta state is what can bring out more clear thoughts. Okay, let me rework that because I feel like it may not make sense. So how I picture it is like, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm kind of like making like a scribble motion with my hands. So when your brainwave is not in that theta state and you have a lot of chaos going on, like, and you're feeling scarce, you're feeling fight or flight, you're feeling all of these emotions that are like bottled up. So let's just say the contractor situation. For me, if I didn't deal with those emotions and I just suppressed them, didn't say anything, the house got finished and it wasn't the way I wanted, but I'm like, oh, it's fine. Like, it's not terrible, but it's not exactly how I wanted it to be. Like I can suppress all of those emotions, just reinforce the idea that I'm never seen and I'm never heard, and reinforce the codependency around it all, right? Just like reinforce all of the things that I want to change about myself. And as I'm reinforcing those things, it's just like chaos in your mind. Like all of that is just all up here, and it's not like let go and released on paper with a pencil or a pen. And I truly feel like processing my emotions and making sense out of them and understanding them and seeking help when I'm like, hey, this is how I'm feeling and I'm not understanding the correlation, but I feel like it's there. It's helped me bring to the surface some of the other questions in life that I had about more tangible things like business, career, personal life. And that is because I know that journalism, it's not journalism that helps, but journaling, and it can assist in promoting your theta brainwaves. And your theta brainwaves are the things that allow you to have like deep understanding. And the journaling really what it's doing is quieting the mind, reducing the stress and the anxiety, and it's just like leading me to a state of relaxation, and which in turn helps increase my theta brainwave activity, which in turn helps me process and understand things that I'm like, hey, how should I do this? What's the best way to do X? And so what you'll hear people say in life is like, hey, once I started meditating, or I meditated around abundance, or, I meditated and I got this opportunity or this job or whatever. What I truly think is happening is that you are quieting your mind enough for the really potent stuff to surface that shows you opportunity, shows you growth, shows you the path of the next step that you need to take that you're questioning. And that clarity I was so excited about, because I feel like I'm like, wow, this feels really great. Like this is the question that I was trying to figure out, and I just figured it out here, like right in the car. Think about it like this. Your brain is like one big computer that helps you think and feel things. And there's different parts to it that do different things, right? Like just like a regular computer. And we want to do things to help the theta brainwave part. Calm, relaxation, not anxiety. And so when your theta brainwaves are working well, then your brain is also working well and going in the right direction and helping you with the things that you are looking for help with. Your brain is running a lot more smoothly. So yeah, theta. We want to focus on theta. Journalism. Why do I keep saying journalism? Maybe because I was a journalism major, who knows, but journaling helps a ton. And yeah, so that's the best way I would describe it. I guess let me try this one other way if it doesn't resonate with you or make sense to this point. Imagine like you have a toy box in your room, and sometimes you put toys in the box and you don't play with them for a while, and then sometimes you'll come back to the toy box later and then you're having trouble finding the toy that you put back in the box because they're all mixed up with the other toys. But if you take all of the toys out of the box and then put them back neatly, obviously it's easier to find the toys that you were looking for because it's organized, right? There's no chaos. The same is true with your brain. Sometimes you have thoughts and feelings that you don't think about for a while, or that you think about but don't process and just let them go to, like, I don't know, under the rug in your brain. But when you're calm and you're relaxed, like taking a nap or just waking up, it's easier to find those thoughts and feelings because they're not all mixed up with the other portions of your brain, just like the toy box example. So I feel like that's probably an easier demonstration of that. And so for me, all the toys in my head is like all of the me being awake to my subconscious, me being awake to the patterns that I have in life, and then changing them, writing them down, processing, making the decision that the next time I'm in this situation, I'm not going to repeat it again. To me, that's organizing my toys in my head, which is why when I have other questions about other areas in life, it's easier to find those toys. So all in all, processing the chaos in your mind is so helpful. And I want you guys to watch and look for the other areas of your life that you get clarity. And processing for me has been journalism. It's been journaling, and I love it. So I want to love that for you too. If this is helpful at all, share about it, post about it on Instagram stories, tag me. We can be journal partners together. But otherwise, happy butterfly season.